In 2000, 1 billion people were supposed to live in Russia. There are 146 million Russians now. What went wrong in their history? The answer is in 1917. Until then, Russia was different. It was the fifth economy in the world. 180 million people lived here, 80% of them were peasants. The average family had 5 children. Russia was the leader in supplying grain to the world market, 25 million tons. In second place was Austria-Hungary. It supplied 6 million tons of grain. In 1913 Russia produced 654 steam locomotives. The total length of Russian railroads in 1914, 74,000 kilometers. Second place in the world. Russia had a developed military shipbuilding industry. It built and had in service line ships, cruisers, destroyers and even an aircraft carrier. In 1909, the Russian Baltic Carriage Works was opened in Riga, which was engaged in small-scale production of cars. 1910 to 1913, appearance of the first aircraft factories. The plant, Dux, in Moscow produced French aircraft under license, and later began its own development. At the Russian Baltic Carriage Works in Riga, Sikorsky built his airplanes, Russian Knight and Ilya Muromets. The size of the regular army was about 1.4 million in peacetime, up to 5.5 million after mobilization. 50% of the officers were nobles, educated and well-bred people. In the early 20th century, Tsar Nicholas II asked scientist Dmitry Mendeleev, the creator of the periodic table of chemical elements, to calculate the population of major countries in the year 2000. His forecast, even taking into account 2 world wars, came to 10 accuracy for all countries, except Russia. According to his calculations, 1 billion people should have lived in Russia in 2000. In 1914, Russia enters the First World War. During the 4 years of war under the Tsarist officers, Russia's losses will total 2 million people. In World War II, the Soviet Union will lose 14 times as many people in the same time period. In February 1917 a peaceful democratic revolution takes place in Russia. The Tsar abdicates from power. Power is transferred to a provisional government. Governance deteriorates and the country is overwhelmed by peaceful citizens' rallies. In November 1917, the communists seize power in St. Petersburg. The revolution was not made by millions, but by a handful of people. There were only 50,000 Bolsheviks. But they had 3 trump cards: a weak government, deserter soldiers, and the genius of organization, Lenin. While the government was talking about democracy, Lenin ordered, "Take the Winter Palace, today." This was not a popular revolt. It was a coup by professionals. The Civil War began, which would last until 1922. According to historians, Russia lost 14 million people during this time. 3 million were military losses. 2 million people became victims of terror of the population. Famine and epidemics killed 7 million people. 2 million people emigrated from the country, including Sikorsky, the inventor of helicopters, and Zworykin, the inventor of television. Scientists, writers, engineers, and almost all the nobility left. In 1918, the fight against dissent began. All dissenters were either exterminated or sent to prison camps. At peak times, up to 10 million people were held there. 2 million people died in the camps. In 1930 collectivization began, taking all property from peasants and uniting them into collective farms. Those who resisted were killed by the police or the army. Collective farmers had no documents, so they could no longer get a job anywhere. They would not start receiving passports and pensions until 1974. As a result of collectivization, 2 million peasants were killed, and everyone was robbed. The destruction of the peasantry and the mass export of bread to be sold abroad led to famine throughout the country. It brought death to 7 million people. The economy of the country was destroyed. Famine and devastation reigned in the country. All the epic construction projects of that time were done by the hands of prisoners. Russia lost 27 million in 20 years. Famine, shootings, camps. In 1921, more people died from typhus than from bullets. In 1933, grain was exported while people ate bark. And in 1937, 700,000 people were shot in 2 years, an entire city. On June 22, 1941, the Soviet Union was attacked by Nazi Germany. Despite the fact that the Red Army had twice as many tanks, artillery and airplanes concentrated along the border, it suffered a monstrous defeat. 3 million Red Army soldiers and commanders were captured. That's a large part of the entire armed forces at that time. Few of them survived to the end of the war in German prison camps. In this war, the Soviet Union would lose 28 million of its citizens. This is despite the fact that Germany, which captured all of Europe and fought not only Russia, but also the Allied forces, including in Africa, would lose only 7 million people. 5 million citizens of the Soviet Union fought on the side of the German army. They were avenging their devastated families and murdered relatives. Of these, 3 million were Cossack troops. Cossacks, after the Civil War, were subjected to severe repression for supporting the White Movement. Almost all those who fought on the side of the Germans were killed in battle or shot in captivity. Throughout the war, the huge losses of the Red Army were due to the mediocrity of commanders and their ruthless attitude to their soldiers. The color of the Russian officer corps died in the Civil War. The last, those who defected to the Bolsheviks, were shot in 1937. Soldiers were forced to go on suicide attacks in two ways. 1. Method. Rearguard detachments shot anyone who refused to go into the attack or retreated after it. During the war, the Red Army shot 1 million of its own soldiers and commanders. 2. Method. Each soldier before the battle received 200 grams of pure alcohol. After that, the instinct of self-preservation was turned off completely, but also coordination of movements, reaction and accuracy of shooting fell. This is what would later lead to total drunkenness in the Soviet Union. During active combat operations, the average life expectancy on the front line was 1 day for soldiers, 5 days for platoon commanders, and 1 month for company commanders. Given the colossal losses, commanders were trained for only a few months. It is clear that professionalism was out of the question. In total, Russia lost 55 million people in the 28 years after the revolution. That's almost 30% of the population of Tsarist Russia. It turned into a poor, ruined country. The revolution was not a great turning point, but a monstrous tragedy for the entire nation.